Hi guys, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about subject-verb agreement, and you'll be working on an ed puzzle throughout this, so you'll stop and answer some questions as I go through, just practice examples, and then afterwards you'll do practice on a digital escape room, and that'll be self-checking so you know how you're doing. As you can see from this slide, subject-verb agreement can be a tricky little thing. So I'll show you some ways that test writers might write sentences that trick you and ways that your own writing could confuse you and make it difficult to match them up. So bear with me. So the very basics here, the subject of the sentence is who or what the sentence is about, and the verb is what the subject is doing. Sometimes we call that the predicate. Typically, if our sentence was like, the cat sat on the chair, the subject would be the cat and the verb would be sat, because that's what it did. And then if we were looking for the whole predicate, it would be sat on the chair. It's everything other than the subject. But it's pretty much a useless distinction, really. The very basic explanation of subject-verb agreement is that a singular subject needs a singular verb and a plural subject needs a plural verb. So the cat sits, one cat sits, those match. The cats sit, those need to match. So we drop the S off of the plural, which is confusing because we add an S to make something plural. But if it was that simple, if it was always as easy as the cat sits or the cats sit, then we probably wouldn't be doing this activity. So it's definitely more complicated than that. So here are some things that could possibly get in the way. There are these things called indefinite pronouns, and they're pronouns that if you don't know who in particular is being talked about, so if you would say, someone stole a cookie, we don't know who that person is. That's why it's indefinite. I can't say Jonah stole a cookie, although honestly it was probably him. We use an indefinite pronoun, and they always are singular, even though sometimes they can feel plural. So even like the word everyone, which seems like it would lump together all of the people, that is still just a singular pronoun, so that's kind of tricky. So an example here would be someone is at the door. I don't know who it is. It's not definite who is there. So that's why it's called an indefinite pronoun. So here's a list of indefinite pronouns. They are always, always, always singular, even though they often feel plural. So if we look at like everyone, everybody, everything, those all feel like they should be a multiple thing. But if we think about it like every single body, every single one, each one, every one, we're singling out every individual thing, person, object, whatever. So if you see any of these words, you're always going to use a singular verb. This is a good chart to kind of have close by while you work on practice exercises, this always singular chart. And whenever you see those terms, it can be helpful so that you know you need a singular verb. Losing my mouse here. Here's a couple examples. Everyone in 8th grade agrees that English class is the best. So even though we're talking about the entire 8th grade class, we want to use agrees, which is a singular verb. So everyone agrees. And I feel like if you say it like that, you probably wouldn't say everyone agree that English class is like that. Doesn't sound right to our ears, but it's when we start adding in extra phrases that it gets confusing. No one ever wants English class to end. So we have no one, that's a singular indefinite pronoun, and wants is a singular verb, so they go together. Both true statements here, obviously. Like I said, you want to be careful with these extra phrases between your subject and your verb. So don't be confused by those. For example, everything in the units we've covered is fair game on the tests. The actual pronoun, the actual subject is just everything. So I can cross off the rest of that. Everything in the units we've covered, just make it everything is fair game on the test. That's going to save you from being confused. Because I think it could be tempting to think of units as our subject here, and then since that's plural, trying to make this are. But if you focus on just what the actual core of the subject is and you ignore this part, it can make it easier. Similarly, each of my talented, amazing students is the best. I can't pick a favorite. Very tempting to put an R here because of the word students, but each is our subject. Each one of my talented, amazing students is the best. Each one is the best. I can't pick a favorite. So always try to like distill it down to what the most important, the core of the subject is, and that usually will help you. Then we have these things called compound subjects. This is a whole different kind of confusing. If the subject has two or more things connected with and, we're going to use a plural. So Mrs. Cram and Mrs. Bezoric are awesome because together we are a plural. We're two teachers. Mrs. Cram, Mrs. Bezoric, and Mrs. Woodward work well together. You're putting three of us together, so we need a plural verb here. Phrases like together with, along with, as well as, they are not conjunctions, so don't treat them like an and. Just like we did up here where we kind of cross off all of the things that are not important, you'll do that here. So some of the scissors, as well as some glue, were stolen by a school supply bandit. Just ignore that as well as. So some of the scissors were stolen. The fingerprints, together with eyewitness accounts from students, will help us catch this despicable thief. We would just do the fingerprints will help us catch. So you ignore this part. Unless you see things joined together with the word and, you don't treat them like compound subjects. And then we have the either or neither compound subjects. So when either of them are alone without the word or, they're singular. And that is because of the same rule with indefinite pronouns. So the same thing we talked about up here. You can see either and neither are on the list. So if you ever just see neither option appeals to Moana, if it's alone, you ignore all of the other pieces and you treat this like a singular. Either could lead to her death, either lead. Either one could lead. However, when they come with a sidekick, when they come as a pair, whichever subject is closest to the verb is the one that determines whether or not it's singular or plural. So a silly way to remember this, so we were talking about Moana up here. So Moana and Hey is her sidekick. When they're fighting Te Kā and the heart of Te Fiti was closest to Hey, he's the one who grabbed it in his mouth. So whoever was closest picked up whatever the battle was. Similarly here, if we do either or, neither or, whichever one is closest is the one that determines whether it's singular or plural. I have no idea what that noise was. Who knows? A couple examples here. Neither the teacher nor the students, so they're closest to the verb, neither the teacher nor the students know how to fix the printer. Either the students or the janitor has to clean up the mess. So he's closest. We determine here that it's singular. Then this one, has either the guidance counselor or your teachers talked to you about your grades? Since the guidance counselor is closest to the word has, it becomes singular. If we had it over here, it would have been have. So the biggest takeaway is to be careful of extra distracting phrases that are not part of the actual subject. So as we read this very long sentence, Tim Berners-Lee, one of America's most prominent computer scientists and, as a founder of the World Wide Web Consortium, one of the most important figures in the development of the internet, has been working quietly at MIT for many years. There's a lot of information in here. And we don't actually get to the verb until a whole way down here. So we want to ignore everything in the middle and just make it Tim Berners-Lee has been working quietly at MIT for many years. If you tried to kind of dig through all of this information, it might be harder to figure out what verb you need here. So you always just want to... What is that? It's like a saxophone. I don't know. You always want to ignore the pieces that are not crucial to figuring out what the actual subject of the sentence is. You guys are going to be practicing this on the subject-verb agreement escape room. The first slide up here has directions. Make sure you read those, and it'll take you through a bunch of different practices. It's a tricky activity, so don't get frustrated. Just keep trying, and it's an important skill, so it'll be good for you. Be good for your substitute if you are one of my later classes today, and I think that's it. Have a good day. I'll see you tomorrow.